Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. On today's program, Sally Owen from the Quincy Parks Department's Environmental Treasures program will be taking us back in time to the times of the St. Moritz Winter Carnivals here in Quincy. First, though, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, some hazy sunshine. 46 degrees out there right now on this 45th anniversary of the blizzard of '78. Nothing like that today. Mix of sun and clouds with temperatures in the mid, maybe upper 40s this afternoon. Chilly night tonight. Skies will clear out. Lows will drop off into the mid 20s and really an above average week this week in the temperature department. Tomorrow could see some afternoon rain or snow showers. Won't add up to anything. Temperatures in the upper 30s. Look at Wednesday is going to be gorgeous. Lots of sunshine, just a few clouds up around 50 degrees. Chance for some more rain here on Thursday, but still staying pretty mild with a high in the upper 40s to again near 50 degrees. Again, 46 with some hazy sunshine in Quincy right now. Checking news for you today, a $3 million improvement project is getting underway at the historic Mount Wollaston Cemetery here in Quincy. The plans include the creation of a new iron gate at the C Street entrance, the realignment of the war memorials to put them in chronological order, and the creation of a new monument to Gulf War veterans. Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch says that the project will enhance an already beautiful garden cemetery that was first consecrated in 1855.
There'll be a new main gate. It'll be narrowed down. The entrance will be more beautiful, be planted. We'll pick up some more graves in the veterans section. The intention is to realign all of the war monuments and light them at night. Additionally, we'll have all of the flags from the branches of the service up behind the monuments so that, right now we have the American flag, but we have that whole section that's dedicated to our veterans. We thought it appropriate to put the military branches flags up there as well. This work will all be underway in the coming days. There is another piece that will be added that's just really beginning its formation, if you will, and that is a new monument to the global war on terror, those who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. The last monument there was to the men and women who served in Vietnam, and this one will be dedicated to the men and women who served in the effort in the global war on terror, as well as directly in Iraq, Afghanistan. So looking forward to that. That's probably more like a year and a half away. Okay. The artist is working on that monument. It's in final design, and then, of course, it will be a combination of bronze and granite. We feel it's their time now. We should honor their service, and there'll be 7 names of Quincy people that we lost during that time period that will be engraved into the monument.
Some other parts of that project will include some new tree plantings, safety improvements, and renovations to the perimeter granite wall. Mayor says Congressman Stephen Lynch has helped to secure a federal ARPA grant to help pay for the project. Quincy City Council is looking for an update from the mayor on why a diversity, equity, and inclusion liaison hasn't been hired yet. Councilors last week passed a resolution sponsored by at-large councilors Ann Mahoney and Nina Liang requesting that update. Ward 3 councilor Ian Kane chaired a special commission that recommended the liaison position. He says it won't be an easy job to fill.
I wouldn't want this job. I think this job is kind of, it's not, I don't know if it'll ever be set up to be successful because the anticipation of what the job would seek to perform from some of my colleagues with no disrespect meant, I think is unrealistic at times. And so I think even in this resolution where, we're talking about this position handling a situation in a school system about potential racism, and this position is never going to cure racism in Quincy or anywhere, and never would this type of position do that. That's just not realistic and or feasible. And so I also know that there's a person in the school system that's sort of tasked with managing or looking into aspects of this. And so I'd love to know, what they're up to, especially vis-a-vis this recent incident in the school system. So I don't know. That's just the way I feel about it. I think the work is difficult, and I don't think that this is going to be a panacea to get anyone to a place where they feel like certain aspects of prejudice and discrimination are eradicated, because that's just That's not going to happen through this position at all.
City Council did approve a $75,000 annual salary for the position, but Mayor Thomas Koch says there was only one unqualified applicant for the post. He says the salary may have to be revisited. The job may have to be re-advertised. Well, if Quincy is to create its very own municipal broadband internet, it will have to establish an enterprise fund to pay for it. Quincy City Council last week voted to put the creation of that fund into committee for further discussion. Councilor at Large Nina Liang praised Councilor Ian Kane for working on this issue for the past 5 years.
Just want to quickly commend and thank my colleague for not only leading this initiative, but being so proactive and making sure that it stays a priority on top of everything else that is important that we're working on up here. I know Comcast recently jacked up their prices, and again, this is another example of how we're just at their mercy. And so again, I cannot thank you enough as somebody who has to use their hotspot sometimes at home and has to then pay the fees no matter what they are. I just, as a resident and a colleague, really just thank you for your hard work on this. So.
The idea is for the city to create its own broadband internet network and then invite companies to compete to offer online service to subscribers. Supporters say the municipal network will lead to lower overall rates due to competition. The city has been working with an outside company that's helped other communities develop their own broadband networks. Quincy Councilor at Large Ann Mahoney is criticizing the administration's recent purchase of a building on the McGrath Highway to be used for people in substance use recovery. Mayor Thomas Koch says the city bought the building to offer a meeting space for recovery groups who were displaced by the pandemic. Mahoney says the publicity about that venue defeats the purpose of those recovery groups.
There's nothing more frustrating than to say every meeting, can we have meetings brought forward, and when we read in the newspaper that, the administration is more than willing to come forward and talk to us about ARPA funds, yet they don't. Yet we have to read in the publications that these things are happening. It's not correct. And I want to just say, coming from a family that has alcoholics in it, anonymous means something for a reason. To buy a building and to put a spotlight on a building for Alcoholics Anonymous is really offensive. And, and when there are so many other places that people need to go, but to put a public building there and say that we're doing something to be good for the community. Now, I would say this again, it's a noble thing to say when you're trying to solve people's problems, but this is supposed to be anonymous, and there are other things that are happening in the city that we need to take priorities on. And finally, we voted as a committee for this DIF funding, and this was not listed as one of the properties that we were going to purchase, but the way we write bonds in the city of Quincy are very open-ended, so there are loopholes for the way that the taxpayers' money gets spent. I did not support the bond, and I won't support any more until we actually start itemizing and seeing the buildings that we are purchasing in the city of Quincy, because we cannot afford any more.
Mayor says the city used $1.8 million in federal pandemic relief funds to buy that building. Mahoney claims the money came from the $53 million that's been earmarked for Quincy Center redevelopment. Mahoney will introduce a resolution at the next City Council meeting seeking more information about the purchase and the expenditure of federal pandemic relief funds in the city. Voters in Quincy's Ward 4 will be heading to the polls tomorrow in the special election to fill that city council seat. Joel Buenaventura and James Devine are seeking to fill the seat that was left vacant when Brian Palmucci resigned late last year after being appointed a district court judge. Quincy City Clerk Nicole Crispo says anyone who still has a mail-in ballot must get it back to City Hall by tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
Yes, our drop box will be open as well. Here at City Hall for off hours if anybody would like to drop their ballot in the drop box.
Early voting and absentee voting have already concluded. Only about 7% of voters cast ballots in the preliminary special election back in January. So Crispo is hoping for a better turnout tomorrow. The polls will be open in Ward 4 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Quincy Access Television will provide the results after the polls close tomorrow night. It's our check of news for you today. Coming up, we chat with Sally Owen of the Quincy Parks Department's Environmental Treasures Program next. Welcome back. It's kind of appropriate, I guess, on this 45th anniversary of the blizzard of '78 that we're talking about winter carnivals here in Quincy. Sally Owen has stopped on by from the Quincy Parks Department's Environmental Treasures program to tell us about her latest upcoming program on the St. Moritz Winter Festivals in Quincy. Hi, Sally.
Hey,
How are you?
great.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Same to you.
Yes. Good thing they're not having the Winter Festival today, or this year actually, because there wouldn't be any snow for it.
Well, it's right in line with what's happened. You know, like
Yeah.
they've been doing this from 1929 to 1940, and I think only 6 of them took place.
Oh, is that right?
And most of them had to be, rescheduled, on that particular year.
Because
In
of no
fact, that's
snow?
why there's an ice skating rink now at the
We'll just
Shea
build
Rink.
our own because we're not having enough ice, right?
Yeah, but lots of perseverance.
Yeah. So take us back then, if you would, to
Yeah.
1929 and tell us about the St. Moritz Winter Festivals or Carnivals,
Carnival is called.
that were held
yeah,
in Quincy.
Yeah. So basically, a group of Scandinavian immigrants who had moved to Quincy formed the Blue Hills Recreation Club, and they wanted to have winter sports. And the second Winter Olympics took place in St. Moritz, Switzerland in 1928.
Okay.
So they got their idea, let's have our own Olympics, Winter Olympics. And so they got some money, like $1,000 or whatever. I don't know if it's from the city or the state, but and they created the ponds that you now see over behind the Shea Rink. That was all a wetland. So they created ponds for skating. They built this incredibly large ski jump, and they had 2 toboggan chutes for people to go down. And so what we're doing is we're going to actually I'm having a walk on Saturday. One is at 10 o'clock and one's at 1 o'clock. You have to register for them because there's a limited number of people who can come. And we're going to kind of go back in time and see where there are vestiges left of the Winter Carnival, and also by using old photographs
Yep.
of the scene.
So there are still some remnants of the, I guess, Olympic Park that was created,
well,
right?
the ponds are there.
Okay.
I mean, they were not there before.
They were man-made then? They were
Yeah,
dug
they
out
were
with
artificially
excavators?
created. And someone said that one of the people from Almquist Florist
Yeah.
Land had some equipment, garden equipment or whatever, and helped or maybe did dig those ponds.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
And, so the toboggan chutes and the ski jump. So.
Are still there?
No, they're
Oh.
not there. There's, in fact, the toboggan run was started in the parking lot of the ice skating rink.
Okay.
But it was very high,
Yeah.
and a lot of the dirt there was excavated to build the Blue Hills Reservoir. So that whole bunch of land has changed, but you can still see footings from the ski jump, and you can still see the steep hill
Okay. All right.
that you have to go down. In fact, I just want to say, if people would like to register for the tour, this tour will be 2 hours leisurely stroll, but you have to be able to walk up and down, a couple of steep hills.
Okay, all right. So a little bit
so-
physically demanding. So
Yeah,
some
yeah,
proper footwear is essential, right?
Right.
A good walking stick, maybe.
Yes, and by having everyone register, I'm going to go out and check out the ground again
Okay.
on Friday, and send an update to people about, like the last time I went was all mud.
Sure.
And flooded, There's a beaver dam now there too.
Ah,
So the
okay.
beavers are doing some flooding.
I got you. Okay, all right.
So I'll be sending an update to people who've registered.
Okay, all right.
And,
So how long did it take them to create this park, if you will? I mean, it's not
I
something
don't-
you just decide and all of a sudden you have a ski jump and a toboggan run.
I don't really know.
Okay.
I don't think it took too long, because it started in 1929 and the Olympics was in 1928.
Right.
And so they got the idea from the Winter Olympics
Yeah.
in St. Moritz. So
Okay, so
they probably
6
did it
months
pretty
maybe?
quick.
So
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
okay.
maybe,
Put it together in a hurry.
Right.
This was a big deal, though, right? This
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
this
yeah.
was not just a small group of people that went out and had an afternoon of figure skating and sledding.
Well, it was open all winter for people to skate, but
Okay.
during this carnival, when they ended up having it,
Yeah.
depending on snow and ice conditions and et cetera, one time there was like 50,000 people who came,
Yeah,
and it was like
50,000 people.
1934,
Yeah.
and there was it was filmed and on newsreels throughout the whole country.
Yes.
You know, when you go to the movie theater, that's how you got your news back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this St. Moritz Winter Carnival was on there,
National
1934. Yeah.
We have a little clip of that
Yeah,
video
yeah,
that
yeah.
we're going to show folks, and hopefully you can tell us exactly what it is that we're seeing, that we're looking at. So let's roll that beautiful footage, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here we have the St. Moritz Winter Carnival.
So they're doing this during the Depression.
Yeah.
You know, so it was, you know, perseverance and ingenuity of how to have fun.
Yeah.
Look at the old cars.
So this is 1929.
Well, I don't know. This is
Okay.
sometime between 1929 and 1940.
Okay, all right. So one of the years. And who's doing the filming, Sally? Do you know who?
Well, I know that it was put out by this group, PATHE, P-A-T-H-E, which did all of the newsreels back then.
Okay. There we have the MDC Mounted Police, right?
Yes.
And a building in the background there, which I thought was the horse barn, but you say no. It's,
No, the horse barn today is bigger.
Okay. And obviously they tried
This
to
is where they
include-
created the, you know, did the skating.
Yeah.
And they had all kinds of skating. They had what they call fancy skating, which was like the professional ice skating. Then they had like barrel jumping. Here's one now. This is good. Look at this guy right
somebody
there.
like laying on the ice there.
And so evidently there was one ice skater that could go over 6 barrels.
Is that right? So they tried to mimic the Olympic events, right?
I don't know if they had toboggans. I guess they did. Okay, this is incredible. I remember like years ago our family had a toboggan, but people don't have that anymore. But
Now, were these held at night also? I see some lights in some of the venues.
yeah, they did have lights that they,
Okay.
I think with the toboggans were just for the public to go up whenever they wanted to.
So this was not competition then? It was just basically for fun?
But you see that steep hill behind
Yes.
you? That's the, that hill is now the parking lot of the ice skating rink.
On Willard Street?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep.
All right. So this basically
So
it all
look at
took
that.
place right
That is a ski jump, and that they had built, and we will go up to look at where some of the foundations of that ski jump were.
Okay. Now, I mean, these folks have talent. So, I mean, who were these athletes, these competitors? This is not just general folks.
I think some of them were just local people,
Really?
and then after a while they got, for this ice skating anyway, they got professionals who did circuits around the country to come. And it must have been very difficult because, you know, the professionals would be going from one venue to another,
Right.
and if they had to constantly be, you know, rescheduling because there was not enough snow or ice. And in fact, the very first one, dozens of spectators of the ice skating fell into the water, like the ice cracked,
Oh.
and they ended up into their waist.
Oh, my. Okay.
1929, a nice start to the ice skating.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, again, no competition, so no gold, silver, bronze. You know, it was not.
I don't, you know, there might be there was I don't know if you can see it now, but at the top of the ski jump, there was a group of people who were, you know, like watching it like professionals or something. So maybe they did have,
Okay.
maybe they
Because
did have something.
It's obvious that some of these folks have done this many, many times before. You know,
right.
it's
Some
not
of, these
just-
are like the professionals back then.
Right, but you see the mounds of snow that they had to clear
Right.
to create the ice rink there.
And that was another thing. 1934, the park department truck that was scraping the snow off the ice sank into the pond.
The truck sank in the pond.
The truck sank into the pond.
Now, to myself, I'm thinking, well, you're digging out wetlands. Like, if you tried to do that today,
and just look, hold on, look,
Yeah.
look at this. This is like so much for safety.
this
you know,
is-
like
yeah, they're right on the jump,
They're right on the jump.
Yeah.
There's a guy right in the middle of the jump, you know, and it's going down. The ski jump is ending in the pond. Yeah, sorry. So what were you going to say?
so it's not really highly regulated. But look at the hordes of people that
I
came
know,
out.
I
Did they
know.
have to pay, do you know, to
No, it
attend?
was free.
It's all
It was
free?
free, yeah.
Okay. But I'm thinking today, if you try and do that, the environmental permits that you would have to get
Right.
would be, you know, prohibitive, right?
I know,
It wouldn't
I
be
know.
allowed. This was
yeah.
just folks taking it upon themselves. The land itself, was it public land, do you know?
Yeah, it was. Well, the MDC, you know,
Okay.
which is now the DCR.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were regulating the their horses and stuff. So they,
Okay.
I think this was their land. I
Okay.
don't know any details about, they must have gotten approval to do it.
Right, right. But again, it was just something that the general public could go and do.
Yeah, and they could, there were lights and they could do it all, winter,
Yeah.
skating and tobogganing and
Yeah.
things like that.
Why did it stop? What happened? Do you know what
Well,
led to the end of it?
World War II.
Okay.
So people went away, and I guess, out of 12 years, only 6 times
Yeah.
were they actually able to have the carnival.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of perseverance.
Yeah.
And maybe refrigeration came in at some point, because now we have that ice skating
The
rink.
MDC rinks were
So,
all over. Yeah.
Yeah, so right at Shea Rink,
Yeah.
so that was created with it. So,
Okay.
but it's just a wonderful story of perseverance, ingenuity, and during the Depression. I mean, I was thinking today, coming over here, that what we've gone through with the trauma of COVID and
Yep.
whatever. I mean, it's inspiring that, here it's a very difficult time,
Yeah.
and yet people have still found ways to have fun.
Yeah, well, it also made it accessible to the general population, right?
Right,
Because
right.
the Olympics are usually something that most people, can't afford to or at least access.
Right,
So here it is, you're bringing it home. It's interesting that it was the immigrants that had the idea from their homeland, right?
Right, right.
To bring
right.
a little piece of
but
that
they loved
here.
winter sports.
Yeah, in
so.
Scandinavia, of course, they're probably born with ice skates and skis on practically,
Yeah. I just want to say, too, that
Yeah.
Tom Bonomi, who is going to be leading one of the 2 tours, I'm going to lead the one at 1, and he's going to lead the one at 10.
Okay.
Years ago, he did all this research. He went through every Patriot Ledger every day for December, January, and February, from 1929 to 1940, and copied every article dealing with Sam Moritz, and he collated it into a notebook that you can access. If you go over to the reference desk at the library and ask for the notebook on the Winter Carnival, you can look at some of these.
Oh, good
really
for him.
fascinating.
Must have taken him a long time to do that
Yeah,
research.
yeah. So
Okay.
he has just an encyclopedic knowledge of
Yeah.
this, and their photos and stuff too.
Also, that video, the full-length video, will be posted to our website here. It's qatv.org/Winter Carnival, and folks will be able to go online and watch that. And we'll post this show that we're doing today on there as well, so folks can hear you explain what it's all about. 'Cause
That's right. And so it's great. So if you have friends or whatever, or family that you want to show them, or even if you can't go, or you don't want to go in the middle of the winter time, you can. Go look at this movie, and then go to the library, check out some of the articles in Tom's notebook, and wander around yourself. Sometimes the ponds are still there,
Yep.
and it's pretty neat. The other thing that's in those notebooks that I found incredibly funny was what was published more than all of these winter sports activities was the Snow Queen.
The
So
Snow Queen.
So the deal was that the Blue Hills Recreation Club had these rules. So Snow Queen had to be on ice skates on the pond, and had to be at least 18 years old. And they had 3 judges. One of them was a city councilor. I don't know the other 2 people, but.
Okay.
And so they were going to go look on the ice to vote on who's the prettiest one. So they picked this one girl and said, okay, she's the prettiest, she wins the trophy. And but then the Blue Hills Recreation Club found out she wasn't on skates. She was only 15. They asked for the trophy back. She refused to give it to them. But the other thing that I think is absolutely hysterical is there's this building across the street. It now has a brick facade. It's right at the intersection of Willard Street and Wesson Avenue.
Okay.
And that was where the ballroom was. So they always had a queen at the ballroom as part of each festival.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And this is hysterical. What they said in 1934 about the ballroom. Promptly at 10 o'clock, the doors of the St. Moritz Ballroom in West Quincy were swung wide, and with the orchestra playing Jingle Bells, the horse and sleigh came galloping onto the floor amid a cleverly arranged artificial snowstorm. At the reins was Mayor Ross, and at his side, the Queen of St. Moritz. The ride continued around the hall several times as a big audience cheered and marveled at the beautiful setting as the lights were dimmed. This is not a large facility.
This is
It's still
indoors.
there. It's indoors
The
with a
horse and
horse
sleigh.
galloping around.
If folks do want to attend one of the tours, they need to email you, correct?
Correct.
so@quincyma.gov.
Right. And if they would like to, the tours are generally filled fairly quickly. So if
Okay.
you want to find out, they're free tours every month.
Okay.
And if you want to be on the email list, you also will just send me an email saying you like to be put on the list. And I'll
Okay.
be happy to do that.
All right. Fun to talk to you today, Sally. Really appreciate it. And thanks for bringing in the video and all those materials.
Well, thank QATV for posting it and making it available to people because it is really an amazing.
It's neat.
You know,
It's a neat
part of
story that a
Quincy
lot
history.
of folks
Yeah,
don't know about.
yeah, yeah.
Myself included. So I've
Yeah.
learned something too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Good to see you. Just enough time to check the forecast for you for the rest of the day today. It's not going to freeze out there today, that's for sure. Lots of clouds, a few sunny breaks, mid-40s, down to the mid-20s this evening. Stays pretty mild, really, all this week for this time of year. Look at tomorrow. Maybe some afternoon snow or rain showers, but highs in the upper 30s. We're up near 50 again on Wednesday with lots of sunshine, and some afternoon and evening rain here on Thursday, but still mild, high near 50 degrees. Thanks again to Sally Owen for joining us from the Environmental Treasures program. Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Friday here on the show, we'll learn about the Massachusetts Public Interest Research Group. Till then, check our website out anytime, qatv.org, for our latest programs. There's news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and lots more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.